Action.
All right, thanks guys for tuning into this episode of HXF TV. We're just going to talk about some things going on in the box. First off, our shirts should be in hopefully by the end of the week. Looking forward to getting those in. Next is our Roll Your Buns Off event. It's coming up on June 17th. It'll be at 7:30 a.m. It'll be probably an all morning event like it was last year. Again, we're going to be doing a charity fundraiser for this. It's 20 bucks. All proceeds go to the local Special Olympics athletes. Again, keeping everything local. Make sure you guys get your name on the sign-up sheet. If you drop your payment in the box, go ahead and put a check mark there. And then please add whether or not you want to row 5K, 5 to 8K, or 10K plus. That'll help us break people up and put people on different teams. Another thing that we have coming up again this summer is our Power Athlete Camp. So if you have anybody that you know who has a kid that might want to be part of our Power Athlete Camp, or if you have a child that wants to be part of the Power Athlete Camp, make sure you guys get them signed up for that ASAP. The dates here are on the board, and the trainers can get you a sign-up sheet. So what I want to talk about real briefly today is something I've been noticing. I've noticed a few people kind of going back to our banded pull-up modification. Now we use banded pull-ups in part A when we're building strength, and we'll kind of discuss why we do that versus the high intensity part, but I want to make sure that everybody is getting 100% the max out of the low bar pull-up modification first. So we're going to just talk about setup and make sure that everybody truly understands the purpose of the low bar modification and whether or not you're doing it correctly or not. So what I tend to notice when people are doing it wrong is they set the bar up too low. You notice Deanna can get her arms or her wrists completely over the top of the bar. So when she goes to actually do a pull-up, this is really bad because her arms are not completely locked out. So she's not engaging the lats at the bottom of the pull-up. Where is the pull-up the toughest? It's the toughest typically getting us going, right, out of the bottom. So she's not even developing any muscles down here because her arms are never getting completely straight. So she's not using that part of her lat to actually get her going. So go ahead and give us some reps here, Deanna. So notice she's not going through full range of motion, so she's not going to get the most out of it. Most of us have figured this out. Most of us are setting the bar up correctly. When we set the bar up, I'd like to see you set the bar up to where you can barely touch the bar when your butt's completely on the ground. Right? Now the first way we modify this low bar pull-up is by having our heels close to our butt. Some people like to pull their heels close to their butt like this. Some people cross their legs. Whatever feels most comfortable for you. The important part is how are we actually pulling ourselves up on this bar. So you notice here her arms are completely locked out, so she's having to really engage in the bottom of that pull-up. She's going to pull herself up, and the key here is that she's keeping her hips behind this post. Now by keeping her hips behind the post here, she ends up using the same muscles that she would be in a pull-up. Now let's go ahead and move your feet forward a little bit more. Now watch what happens when her feet are forward and she actually goes to pull up. Now all of a sudden her hips are getting in front of this post and she's doing more of a rowing motion, right? So she's not using the same muscles that she would be in a pull-up, or necessarily all the muscles that we're trying to recruit in a pull-up. So make sure you guys are keeping those hips behind the post to get the maximum out of that. Make sure that your bar is set up high enough to where you're getting full range of motion of your arms. Ideally, I'd like to see you set up to where your butt's actually off the ground. That would be the best. Now, when we get to the point where we feel like that's too easy and we've moved our feet out slowly, the next step would be with our legs completely out in front of us. Now, the problem comes when we put our legs completely out in front of us like this and we go to do a pull-up in the same position that we were in before. In other words, where our butt would start before. Go ahead and show us one, Deanna. What happens is typically our hips end up coming forward again, just like they were when I was not keeping my hips behind the post. So if you're going to do this, challenge yourself and move your feet and your hips back so that your hips, when you're keeping your legs locked out like this, that your hips stay behind this post. Now to do this, Deanna's also got to keep her core tight the entire time. If she doesn't, show us one where you don't keep your core tight, Deanna. Her hips are going to come forward again, right? Now keep your belly nice and tight when you're doing this. So that keeps her hips behind the bar, and she's getting the maximum potential out of this modification. So before you guys go to doing any other modifications on pull-ups, I'd like to see you make sure that you have this set up correctly and that you're doing this to its maximum potential first making it as tough as possible on you before you go to something else. Now, what can we do outside of doing the low bar pull-up modification for a pull-up in a workout kind of situation or a high intensity situation? Well, we can do box pull-ups, right? Jumping pull-ups. Now, when we're doing jumping pull-ups, we have to make sure that we're not trying to lower ourselves down slowly. So when I do a jumping pull-up, I'm making sure I'm pushing myself down. That way my feet come right back down to the box. This is super important for a couple reasons. One, for safety. If I try to lower myself down too slow, my feet come forward, and I can't do that in a high intensity situation. So I want to make sure I'm pushing myself back down so my feet land. And then also this low, slow, lowering yourself down. Go ahead and show us one, Deanna. I know that we do negative pull-ups in the part A's, in the strength pieces a lot. But doing this in a high intensity situation like a part B, where you're doing a high volume of pull-ups, is not good for a lot of reasons. It breaks down the muscle too fast, and some of our bodies can't handle that, and it can potentially end up leading to rhabdo. That's the reason why we got away from doing the banded pull-ups, because it tends to cause the same thing. So I'm going to show you a couple of reasons why we don't use the banded pull-ups either. So go ahead and give us some high intensity pull-ups, no kip, no kip. Get those feet out in front of you. Typically I see the feet come out here like this, right? So we get into that rowing motion again, right? Where she's pulling here instead of pulling here. And then also she's lowering herself down really slow, which leads to the same problem that we have with the jumping pull-ups. So instead of doing banded pull-ups in the workouts, we're gonna have you guys, if you don't feel like this is doing much for you anymore, which I think if you try doing it to its true potential, you'll see a huge difference there. But if you don't, and you want to do something that's a little bit higher intensity for a pull-up, we're going to do jumping pull-ups on a box, which these are super easy for Deanna, right? So we need to modify this and make it tougher for her. So we're going to put her on a smaller box. Now it's going to be super important that she pushes down because she's got a smaller target to land on. And it's making it tough for her to get, well, a lot tougher on her to get that chin over the bar, right? So that's the modifications that we'd rather see you guys use than using the banded pull-up modification in a workout. If we want you to use a band for pull-ups, it'll be in a part A situation, and we'll tell you guys, you know, to grab a band that we're doing banded pull-ups for part A today. But when you guys are doing it in a workout, try to do either the true potential of the low bar modification or jumping pull-ups, and that should lead to a lot more progress for you guys. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.